To paraphrase Cam Newton, we're back. Hey, how's that
Cam
working out,
Newton?
I
Caroline?
hope we're back lower than he is. I don't know.
Get back, and that's it. That's the last time I heard of him.
So, hey, it's the Stadium Journey podcast. We've been gone for a few weeks, but we are all recharged and we are ready to rock. Visit the website, stadiumjourney.com, to see all of our 2,500 stadium reviews, news stories, features, and more. I think all the news stories and features are done by the Ballpark Hunter himself, Mark Viquez. You can connect with us on all of our social media channels at Stadium Journey. You can find audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast simply by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on your favorite place to find podcasts, and we'll be there. Video simulcasts of all of our podcasts for the last 5 seasons can be found on Stadium Journey's YouTube page, and our classic back catalog can still be found at vocnation.com. And remember, we record live every other Tuesday night at 7 Eastern at danlaw.tv. And thanks to everyone who's in the chat room watching us right now. And the gang is all here tonight. Dave Cotney is with us. You can follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez is on the interwebs at Ballpark Hunter. Dan Colachico, the other guy, you can follow him at DanLaw83, and I'm Paul Baker. Follow me at PuckmanRI. And tonight we are very happy to be joined by singer, songwriter, guitarist, former Red Sox beat writer, Howie Newman. Howie, welcome to the show.
Hello. A pleasure to be here. I've been on all over your website. It's very interesting, and we were just chatting before the show, and a lot of interesting stories about visiting ballparks and venues and sports in general. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, and speaking of interesting stories, Howie, you may be the first person who's been on the show who's in the Hall of Fame.
That's right. 1985. I did. Actually, I have some of my artifacts here. By 1985, I decided I was going to do a national campaign to get rid of the designated hitter, because at that time, Peter Ueberroth, the commissioner, said he was going to poll fans about it. It was only 12 years old at that time, the designated hitter. So I wanted to spring into action and didn't want to see it coming to the National League. And so I didn't know too much about public relations at the time, but by the time I finished the campaign, I certainly learned a lot. And I printed up a bunch of bumper stickers. This is the bumper sticker here. And I put together a brochure of facts and things that people would be interested. And the idea was that if there was going to be a nationwide fan poll, that the fans were going to vote against it, and then they'd get rid of it in the American League, and we'd have like real baseball. And so it was really an interesting project, and it was sort of the 1985 version of going viral, because there was no internet back then. But I sent it all over the place. I got written up in the New York Times, Los Angeles Herald. I got a feature story short feature in Sports Illustrated with my photo. And once that hit Sports Illustrated, I started getting mail from all over the world, because I was selling the bumper stickers and a brochure for like a couple of bucks to finance all the mailing and stuff, because no internet, you couldn't, email things out. And I started getting letters and mail from all over the world. It was amazing. Saudi Arabia, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Mexico, pretty amazing. And so and I did some TV shows also. I was on TNT, and they did like 30 radio shows, and now I'm doing this. So it's like 35 years later I'm doing this.
Worth the wait.
Yeah, it was definitely worth the wait. But
what's the more antiquated idea that we've got here? Is it the mailing and sending out stuff? Is that more antiquated than the idea of a fan poll?
Well, actually, the idea of mailing stuff out is pretty antiquated. Fan poll, I think you could probably facilitate pretty easily, because of the internet. You could have people, don't they have fans electing the all-star teams and everything else? So
yeah,
anyway,
selecting baseball names. Yeah,
right. The upshot of it was the fan poll never took place, and I actually got to talk to Peter Ueberroth about it, because he was a guest on Larry King call-in show, and I called it. I got in, and I asked him about it, and he kind of hemmed and hawed and stammered, and so nothing happened. But it was a lot of fun doing it, and I'm in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you have the photo, but here's sort of the photo of
That's awesome.
in the bumper sticker is in the Hall of Fame. So I'm pretty proud of that.
So yeah, I mean, I talk to any baseball fan. You turn on a sports talk show like WFAN out of New York, and it's still a hot topic debate. Should the DH be in the National League? Do you still feel that it shouldn't and it should be obliterated?
To me, like half a loaf is better than none. So I enjoy. I think the part of the problem with pitchers hitting is that it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, the DH is now in high school. It's in American Legion ball.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do it in Little League. But
Eighth grade baseball when I coached, it's there.
yeah, so it's like so the message is that, well, the pitcher's not supposed to hit. So the pitchers don't hit, and half of the baseball teams, they don't have to hit. So, and the salaries for pitchers have gotten so high that they don't want to risk an injury by actually making the guy swing a bat and run down to first base or anything. So, but I knew I had my calling because the first time I went to Wrigley Field, and by the way, I'm wearing my Wrigley Field sweatshirt. You can't really see it, but it's commemorating the first night game in Wrigley Field. And the first game I saw at Wrigley Field was in 1983. It was against the Mets and the Cubs. And Walt Terrell was pitcher for the Mets, and he hit 2 home runs in that game. So I sort of knew at the time that I was in home, and it was a message from God that I had to go out and do this thing.
Here's the DH question, and
Jefferson,
one of you all may know the answer to this. Does the DH have to hit for the pitcher? Say your pitcher's a good hitter and your shortstop's a crummy hitter. Can you DH for the shortstop?
You cannot. You might be able to jerry rig it or something, but you're not allowed to do that. No. And they actually had a thing where they had the pitcher. I saw a game where they had the pitcher as the DH in the lineup, a pitcher as a DH, and then they wanted to see if the batting order would turn around or something, and then they put the regular DH in, and you're not allowed to do that either. So there's some. I don't know the exact rule, but there is some kind of rule where you can't do that. So, Ohtani, I guess they just have to go without it the whole game if he doesn't do it. There was an interesting thing brought up in one of the baseball broadcasts that you could use the DH as long as your starting pitcher stayed in the game, which is I thought was kind of interesting. Because now the starting pitchers only stay in for like 4 or 5 innings. So
the dreaded opener.
The opener, yeah.
I mean, it's almost a non-factor now because the pitchers are only hitting once a game. So it's like you got that one at bat, But I don't know. It doesn't. I'm an old timer. I'm a traditionalist, and I saw Rick Sutcliffe get 2 hits in 1 inning and everything. And I remember a game where Jim Maloney. I'm going way back to the '60s, but Jim Maloney was pitching a no-hitter against the Mets in the '60s. And he was due up in the bottom of the 9th. It was a scoreless game with a runner on second and 2 outs. And were they going to pinch hit for him, or were they let him bat? And they let him bat. He pitched a hitless 10th, and then I think he gave up a home run to Johnny Lewis in the 11th inning and lost
Wasn't
the game.
that a perfect game?
No, yeah, I think you're thinking of Harvey Haddix.
Okay, maybe.
Harvey Haddix pitched 12 perfect innings and lost everything in the 13th inning. Gave up a hit, gave up a run. Actually gave up a home run, and there was a walk-off, and the base runner, everyone was so excited that someone passed another base runner on the bases and negated the home run, but the 1 run did score. But I'm actually thinking of writing a song about that because it's kind of a unique thing. And one of my most recent songs, I've written a bunch of baseball songs, and I wrote one about Tony Cloninger. Now, do you know what record Tony Cloninger holds? Anybody? Only pitcher ever to hit 2 grand slams in 1 game.
Oh, okay. You had me there.
And he also holds the Braves franchise record for RBIs in a game, which was 9. But that was back in '66, and baseball was so different then. Like he pitched opening day, he pitched 13 innings on opening day, and then the game he hit the 2 grand slams, he won 17-3 and he pitched a complete game. You never see that nowadays.
Oh, well, no, you're absolutely right. You go back to the 1980s watching Dwight Gooden. I mean, he was pitching into the 10th inning for some games, and the amount of innings he would pitch. I mean, that's in my lifetime. And, now we have guys who, if they go 6 innings,
I know
that's good for them.
I think the National League or something average like 5 innings a start or something like that.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous. It's I know baseball's a growing game. Things change, but what the heck happened to the pitchers? Now I know Nolan Ryan years ago said he was growing up. He played basketball, football, and baseball. That helped him not get a lot of injuries. Is it, or are we getting are we specializing pitchers too early?
I don't know. I mean, you would think with all the modern technology and the medicine and the MRIs and everything else that there aren't less injuries now than there were before, although they're probably detecting things that they didn't even know existed back, 20, 30, whatever years ago. But I don't know what the purpose of this, counting the pitches and all this other stuff is. I don't know.
Could it be the opposite?
Why does everybody insist on comparing to Nolan Ryan? Right? Like, why are today's pitchers not like one of the top 5 greatest pitchers of all time?
Probably the biggest outlier out there, yeah.
Well, I mean, look at Bob Gibson. He pitched quite some time.
46
played basketball.
He pitched 27 years. He pitched a long time. I guess the comparison might be he pitched all these years and pitched to a very late age and
it's my age.
Innings and managed to not get hurt, not injure himself. And he batted, of course, in those days because he.
Tommy John. Let's compare Tommy John and Jim Catt, 2 other guys who pitched in 4 decades.
Right.
Well, not Tommy John, almost, but.
Well, Tommy, didn't he have a complete game with like 77 pitches one day or something like that? I think.
I mean, I could see that happening when he pitched for the White Sox. He never won any games because they couldn't support him, but he would have a 2.1 ERA. Yeah, it's just, when you compare the different eras and you look back, it's I don't know what baseball will look like 30 years from now. I mean, I never thought I would see an opener. Never could even imagine what that was, or a record for a hold.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's with the specials. Tony La Russa brought that in with the.
It's a little bit too much.
In the 80s, the specialization. You have the starter, and then the setup guy, and then the closer. But back in the 60s and 70s, like the closer, if they had to pitch 3 innings, he pitched 3 innings. Like Tubman was on. He pitched 100 innings, I think, like 6 times or something like that.
Yeah, somebody else who pitched 20 years.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just it's hard to fathom. I mean, I went to a game. I mean, this was like 1969. So, but the Mets and the Giants, and it was a 14-inning game, and there were 3 total pitchers used in the game. The Mets had Gary Gentry and I think it was Ron Taylor.
Gary Gentry. And
then Juan Marichal pitched for the Giants, and he pitched all 14 innings, and he lost in the bottom of the 14th, and he issued 1 walk in 14 innings. So, I mean, I think it's really affected the marketing of the game, too, because it's like you don't see these kind of marquee matchups, the mano a mano, the great, pitching matchups. It's like you see the guys pitch 5 innings, and then they take him out,
I mean, guys dueling it out. I was talking to a buddy of mine, the 1988 NLCS, when Gooden was pitching the 9th to Mike Scioscia, and he gave up a 2-run homer, and the game was tied. I mean, Gooden probably would have been taken out in the 8th for a reliever. You wouldn't even see that right now, and that's just a simple game there. And you're talking about 14 innings for Juan Marichal.
Yeah.
Wow, those are stats we may never see. We may never see a 300-game winner. I mean, at the rate we're going.
I don't think so. What really bothers me is that I was reading when the Cy Young Award winners were announced. I was reading it on MLB.com or ESPN or one of those, and they were talking about all the different pitchers and who finished 2nd and 3rd. They didn't even mention the won-loss records of the pitchers. Now I know that one loss record is not irrelevant, but it can be misleading. But to say that it has no relevance at all is just mind-boggling to me. I mean, Urias for the Dodgers, he was 20-3 and he finished sixth. I mean, and he had an ERA under 3, had a good ERA, and he pitched a lot of innings. So I don't know where that's coming from. It's becoming too statistically oriented. I think the analytics part of it is really detracted, and I think the whole DH thing kind of blends into that because a lot of the strategy of the game, the fact that the pitcher doesn't have to hit, added to the fact that the pitcher doesn't pitch more than 5 innings, really takes a lot of the strategy and nuances out of the game, and a lot of the charm out of the game too. So anyway, that was my dump the DH thing. I know you guys don't particularly agree with it, but it's more interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you a lot of times I'll watch a game on TV and I'll keep score, and then you're watching a game without the DH. Well, when's the pitcher coming up? Who's left on the roster? Who can pinch hit? Who's in the bullpen? Whereas with the DH, you let him, it's irrelevant. So, but I think it's coming. I think if they ever resolve this labor dispute, I think one of the big chips on the table is universal DH, and I can't even fathom that the National League wouldn't have it next year. But not that I like it, but
I would rather see that than an expanded playoff.
I don't like the expanded playoff either.
I don't like it either. What are they saying? 14 for each league? Is that correct? Are they out of their mind?
Yeah,
No,
17 teams. 17
teams. Oh, 7 for each league. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
it was like 15 teams in each league. Yeah, I think during the pandemic when they wanted to let extra teams in, all right, whatever. But,
yeah.
Right. That makes
I think the way they have it now is pretty good. You have to win your division. You got a huge advantage if you win your division. One game, wild card. If you don't win your division, you got to take your chances. Whatever.
Yep.
I mean, the thing that happened with the Dodgers and the Giants this year is kind of an anomaly. That's not going to happen. You're not going to have the 2 best teams in baseball in the same division. So, whatever. But
that gave the Braves a nice chance to sneak into the World Series that way.
Yeah, well,
they deserve it. They won. Okay.
The Mets in 73. The Mets
Oh my goodness, barely 500.
79, and they made it to the 7th game of the World Series.
Yeah. Yep.
Or think of the Twins in '87.
What was their record?
Was it 87 or 91? They only won 87.
Both years. I don't know which.
They only
Was
won
the
like
06
86, 87 games.
Well, but that doesn't happen that often. The best,
No, it doesn't.
like
06
you said.
Cardinals, I don't think had a great record. Oh, another great year for a Met fan. Okay.
And was it the Cubs team or who won the 116 games in one year in a 154 game schedule? Was it the? I forget
Was it the Indians? 54
Indians? And they didn't win the World Series that year, did they?
They didn't win.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
the Cubs. Well, there was the Mariners won 115 games and
right, and they
lost.
didn't win it, so
Oh,
whatever. That's the way it goes. You gotta play who's on the schedule, and if you don't, you still gotta win the playoff. So, but anyway, that's it. I was thinking about my. Well, before we be going further, I just wanted to show one of my treasured souvenirs here. We were talking about Tug McGraw a little earlier. This is I don't know if you can see this, but
okay.
this is a song I wrote about Tug McGraw, and I actually got him to sign it. So
yeah. Look at that.
I mailed it to him. And
One of my favorite things when I was a kid, I had the Scroogey comic book. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Tug McGraw wrote his own comic strip. It was called
cool.
Scroogey.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was because he threw the screwball. So, I actually sent him because I have on my first baseball CD, I have a song about him getting traded to the Phillies, and so I sent him. It was an EP. It was a vinyl disc. It was 1974, I guess. And so I sent it to him, and I included the lyric sheet, and I asked him to sign it and send it back to me. And, I gave him the postage paid envelope, but I don't think you'll ever see that happening today either.
No.
But
Greg said 14 total, not 14 each league. Good God, Mark.
Yeah.
right,
Well,
yeah,
that's-
14 total. 14. That's still too many.
that makes sense now. Yes.
They'll be playing on.
Oh, you play the whole season to eliminate one team?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. But yeah, 14 times. It's still too many though. They'll be playing on Thanksgiving, So, but and it gets to be too much to watch. I don't know about you, but it's all these games are late. They take 4 hours, and I don't know. It just kind of wears you down.
Yeah. So what? As a traditionalist, what's the one thing you'd like baseball to bring back that they don't do anymore, besides getting rid of the DH?
I just like to see the pace. Well, the problem with the game today, I think, is that pitchers don't pitch to contact, and so they're trying to strike everybody out, and the batters are up there, and they're just trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So you see a ton of strikeouts, and you see pitchers throwing as hard as they can for 5 innings. So I'd like to see pitchers going longer, pitching to contact a little bit more, and batters trying to make contact, because strikeout is really not a very exciting play unless it's at a dramatic moment in the game. And there's too many foul balls too, because of the way the batters approach the plate with their uppercuts and the launch angles. So I'd like to see more contact and a better pace of play. I mean, I was watching on MLB Network. They had the 7th game of the 1960 World Series on, and that was like a 9-7 game or something, or 11-9, whatever it was. No, it was 10-9 game. That Mazeroski was 9-9, and Mazeroski hit the home run. And the pitcher would just get up there and throw the ball, and they get it back, and they throw the ball, and then it's like 2.5 hours for the game, and not like 4 hours. I mean, when you see like close to a 4-hour baseball game, that's horrible. So that's I think they really need to address the pace of play in the game. It's just dreadfully slow. And I'd like to see it. I'm a traditionalist. I'd like to see the pitch clock coming in. And I went to a game. You guys have been to like 300 venues. You must have been to a baseball park with a pitch clock, right?
Oh yeah, there we see them.
Yep.
So it's no big deal. And then after a while, they just get used to it, and it speeds up everything. But I saw one in Nashville. It was fine. It was fine, and. Be nice to cut out like a minute's worth of commercials in between innings.
Well, I think that's another problem is those darn commercials that are constantly being played. I mean, I think it's terrible in the NFL, but
Hey, did you guys know you could bet?
yeah. Jamie Foxx,
I hadn't heard.
the guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm, believe me.
Crazy. You know that.
It's just hitting you over the head with that. I'm already sick of the betting commercials.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not much of a bettor. I mean, no. I think the game's interesting enough without betting on it.
Well,
so, but they've got to do something about the pace of play. I mean, the batter's got to stay in the batter's box, and the pitcher's got to keep throwing the ball every 15, 20 seconds, and then you'll see and more pitching to contact, I think, because what's really amazing is the way Major League fielders make these plays look so routine and smooth, whereas if you ever played ball or softball or anything, you know that it's not that easy. So, but even like a ground ball to short, it's like it's amazing that since the inception of baseball, you hit a medium speed ground ball to short, and you're an average runner, and you run hard to first, you're gonna if the shortstop makes the play cleanly, you're going to be out by a step, and that's happened in 1900, and now it's happening now. So, but I don't know. It's I don't know where baseball's going, but they've got to make some changes, and probably just getting the season started on time would be a major accomplishment.
Yeah, let's do that first and get all the free agents where they need to be, and make sure everybody's happy, because there's people that I've talked to that do not remember or were not alive in 94 and 95 that'll remember the last strike line last stoppage, and that ticked a lot of people off. And there's people that swore off baseball, never going to watch it again, and we just don't want to see more people do that this time around.
Right. Well, I remember. I mean, I'm going back a ways, but I remember in 1968, like Mickey Mantle was getting like $100,000, and people thought it was the end of the world. And then now it's like $40 million. Guys are making like $1 million, almost $1 million a week, and it's getting a little out of control. Now you guys have been to all these venues. What are your favorite? What's your favorite ballpark? Baseball park? Because I think baseball. I mean, I think the other venues, football, basketball, hockey. The venue itself doesn't really affect the play as much as it does in baseball, where you could have a green monster.
I can see that.
Or you have the short porch in right field at Yankee Stadium, or you have the Ivy in Chicago. So I'm just curious what your favorite Major League Baseball venue is.
I know mine, but want to take a stab?
Mine's PNC Park in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. I like.
They don't have obstructed views like some of those old places that I hate.
The view from the upper deck is pretty breathtaking.
Yeah, and I hardly ever sit up there. It's such a cheap ticket. You can sit behind home plate for a decent price.
It's worth walking up though there just to see the rivers and the bridge.
Yeah,
it's really, really cool. Yeah,
I think I sat up there once.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite of the new ballparks.
And now that we're in COVID and I mean the border's barely open, like the possibility of getting a Primanti Brothers sandwich again is like, it's way high on my priority list.
Yeah, see, I like San Francisco a lot, but Pittsburgh is very breathtaking. And if you're with a family, it's probably a little more economical. San Francisco prices are getting a little bit high there, but when that place is packed, when the team is winning, it's a party. The food's great. It's a small, intimate setting, and you got the bay in the background. Just the ideal place to see a baseball game in the major league level. But I would put it one, but Pittsburgh can sneak up there too. I like Pittsburgh and I like Minnesota. Target Field is one of those sneaky good ballparks that some people may not like, but I don't care. I like it. It's got everything I wanted. So
it's nice. It's nice. I mean, the modern architects are now, they take into consideration the city and the buildings and what the backdrop is going to be and everything else. So it's pretty impressive. I think Pittsburgh and San Francisco would be my favorites of the newer parks. I mean, I still like Wrigley Field and Fenway for being old and funky there.
Oh yeah, you got to give respect to the godfathers of ballparks. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, people still love going to Wrigley Field, even if you're not a baseball fan. You go to Chicago, you want to see a game there just because it's the thing to do, and you'll have a good time. But do not drive to Wrigley Field. Take public transportation. I know there's some park and rides a little north of Wrigleyville that Jared Goodman told me about, so I'm gonna take him up on that next time I'm up there. So should be fun.
And again, the upper deck, there's an unbelievable view from the upper deck. You can see the city, and then you can see the very tip of Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit, so it's a pretty amazing place. The first time I went there, I actually bought 2 tickets. Because I figured I had to sit in the bleachers, because that's sort of a Wrigley Field hallmark. And but it was a separate admission to the bleachers and to the grandstand. So I bought a ticket in the grandstand and the bleachers. And I sat in the bleachers for about 4 innings, and it was like really hot. And I went back inside to the regular play. But it's a pretty amazing place. Although it's kind of falling apart, I guess, from what I understand. I'm not sure what the renovation, how much of that they've actually renovated. But the other thing is, it's right in the middle of a neighborhood. It's sort of like, I remember the first time I went there, I got into this hotel and I'm walking around the area, and it's all this residential stuff, and all of a sudden, here's the ballpark. Pretty shocking.
Well, that's how they all used to look. Philadelphia, Cincinnati, they were all neighborhood ballparks, and some of those neighborhoods just people moved out. Cincinnati, they built an interstate in between the neighborhood, ruined it. But
Right.
Wrigley Field was able to still remain just for several factors, and
Well,
it's
that's
good.
why-
It's good.
Yeah. That's why they had a lot of these funky dimensions in some of the old ballparks, because they basically contoured the park to the streets, the existing streets. It wasn't like a big parking lot
No.
or mass transportation, because in when Wrigley Field and Fenway were built, and some of the older parks like Comiskey, there weren't any cars, or hardly any cars. So whatever streets were there, they just designed the ballpark to squeeze in there. I always thought the old Comiskey Park was kind of a underrated, funky ballpark. It was kind of like very boxy, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, never had a chance to go there, but I assume you did.
Yeah, I went to the old Comiskey. Yeah,
Okay.
I before it became fashionable to do these baseball trips, I did one in '83, and I went to the old Comiskey and Wrigley Field, and then we took a ride up to County Stadium in Milwaukee. And,
One of my favorites.
And I wrote a story about it for Baseball Digest, and apparently at that time people weren't really doing that. So I mean, not that I'm just Vanguard or something, but it was unique enough that they ran the story. So what about you, Paul and Dan? How about what's your favorite?
Well, I'd put PNC at the top of my list as well, but just so we can talk about somewhere different, Camden Yards is still one of my favorite places.
Yeah, that's great.
That's my number one. Yeah,
You
Camden
had mentioned,
Yards.
Howie, how they used to build, or how they build ballparks with the backdrop in mind. And
Right.
Baltimore is an example of how they had a beautiful backdrop and they ruined it.
Well, didn't they have they had the warehouse?
Well, the warehouse is still there, but if you used to be able to look out into center field
Okay.
and see downtown Baltimore, but they
Okay.
built this giant hotel there,
All
which
right.
now that's all you can see, really.
Yeah.
I haven't been there recently, but that's too bad. A lot of the minor league parks took that up too. I remember the one up in Portland, Maine. They have like a YMCA or something. That's
The Portland Exposition Building.
right.
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
old.
Yeah, and then in Lowell they had a single A team there, and they had the view of the bridge, which is kind of similar to what they did in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the textile mills are not too far away either from that ballpark, which that's funny how you ask. I was looking at some old videos of when I went to the Lowell Spinners game, and part of it is me and the textile mills and taking the train or taking the trolley. So it was a fun little town during the day. I hear a little sketchy at night. So yeah, it's
Depends where you go in Lowell, yeah.
okay, depends. All right. That's what people told me. It's like, yeah, okay. But
they lost their team though when they through the
yeah, that's right. They did lose their team. I keep forgetting about that.
What are your thoughts on that whole reorganization, Howie?
Oh.
What are your thoughts on that whole reorganization of the minor leagues?
I mean, I think there were probably a lot of minor league cities where they're not that well supported, and the facilities aren't that good. But overall, it's a really nice thing to have in your community, and to lose a minor league game, you can go, you can bring the whole family, $5-6 a ticket, $5 to park, and you're close to the action, and you could see guys on the way up, and or just all the seats are good because you're so it's an unfortunate thing that really happened, because I think it's a great thing for families and communities. And I know in Lowell they were really fighting hard to keep that team there, and they had a really nice ballpark, and they had good attendance. And again, I guess it was just kind of a money-driven decision. But, there are probably a lot of guys in the minor leagues who are never gonna move up, but that's sort of the charm of it too.
I think though, from and we're hearing even more, they've really taken a jump as far as how they're treating the players. So I think I think it was AAA. They announced that that the minor league teams or the major league teams, somebody is going to be taking care of their housing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they really struggle. Yeah.
Before they were making like, a couple $1,000s, and they had to pay, fees to get, bologna and cheese after the game
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get their laundry done and whatnot. And I mean, that was horrible.
Oh,
Yet
yeah.
nobody knew about it. And since in the last 2 years, like that wages has become, I would say, more livable. And then, now it just seems to be like they're treating the whole process professionally as opposed to, a bunch of sand lots or whatever, and see what kind of floats. And
Yeah, I mean, you look at the situation with a guy like Kyler Murray, who was drafted by the Oakland A's, and said he was going to play baseball, and he also got drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. And well, the situation, well, you want to make $600 a month, or do you want to make like $3 million? Even the rookie entry contract in the NFL is like, if you're first round draft choice, is miles above that. So he eventually went play football, and he probably made more in his first year than he would have made in the minor leagues in his first few major league seasons. So it's a big thing. But the game does have attraction in terms of its history and everything else. But you're absolutely right. The minor leaguers were making almost nothing. I mean, you single A ball, they were, I don't know, $300-400 a week, and only during the season.
Yeah. Remember the stories Greg Larson told when he came on the podcast.
Yeah, and you had there was a race factor too. You had these all these Dominican kids who were basically pimped out and sent to a new country, and they weren't making anything. They couldn't speak the language, and there was no investment in them. And then what?
Yeah,
if they
it's
don't
tough.
make it. There
was a really good movie made. It's called Sugar.
Yes, I've seen that movie. Yes.
And it was about a guy. I don't remember exactly where he came from. Might have been the Dominican, but he didn't speak hardly any English. He came over here, and it really kind of showed all the difficulties that a young kid has coming over here, trying to make his way playing ball. He's doing it for his family probably, and the language problem, and competition, and it was a pretty interesting look at it. But anyway. I was also thinking, in terms of minor leagues, people a lot of times will ask me like my favorite interview that I've done, because I did the sports writing for like 18 years, and the favorite, and I've talked to like a lot of the big shots and a lot of the stars. I did a lot of NBA, but my favorite interview was interviewing Steve Lyons, like in I think it was 1984 or 1985. Because back then there's no internet, so you didn't know anything. Like I went down there, and he was like a top Red Sox prospect, and Wade Boggs was the third baseman, and Wade Boggs was the incumbent, and so they said, do a story on this guy. He's their top prospect in AAA, So no idea what this guy even looked like, and drove down there, and he was just very interesting character. He basically hit 240 to 250 on every level of baseball that he played: high school, college, minor leagues, and in the major leagues. And he said he showed up for his first day of college baseball, and he said all these other guys were like all American or all state or something like that, and hit 400, and said that I couldn't really compare with them, but like 5 years later, I'm the only one who's still playing ball. So, but it was he in the minor leagues, when you do stories like that, I'm sure you guys have done it. Players are just much more relaxed and forthcoming, and so we chatted for like 45 minutes, and he was just a real breath of fresh air. And another memorable thing that I did, I was kind of going through racking my brain because a lot of I've done the World Series and that stuff, but I think some of the more memorable things that I've done involve other things. Like I covered the 1984 Cape Cod League All-Stars against the U.S. Olympic team down in Cape Cod, and it was like Will Clark, Mark McGuire, Oda B. McDowell, B.J. Surhoff, and Barry Larkin were all on that Olympic team. So it was kind of an interesting thing. And a few other things that came to mind. I actually did a feature on the Continental Basketball Association.
Oh, CBA. I know that.
The original CBA, which Isaiah Thomas ran into the ground.
Yep.
Oh,
And
geez, yeah.
so I did a story. It was the Bay State Bombardiers. They were located in Worcester, Mass. Against the Albany Patroons, and the opposing coaches were Dave Cowens and Phil Jackson. And
That's right. I
I
got to
guess
start
he's
there.
talking about minor leagues. In those days, they had a nine players on the team, and they drove their own van all over the place. And so I asked Phil Jackson. I said, "Well, who drives the van?" He says, "Well, I do." It's pretty interesting. And I did a United States Basketball League game in Newport, Rhode Island.
Hey, I was probably at that game.
It was the Rhode Island Gulls
Yes.
featuring Spud Webb and Manute
Manute
Bol.
Bol. Yep.
Wow.
And Spud Webb, who's 5'6", could get up a lot higher than Manute Bol could.
The best thing was walking around downtown Newport and seeing the two of them walking together down the street.
Yeah, unbelievable. It reminded me of a game I saw with the Mets and the Montreal Expos, and Dick Raditz was pitching for Montreal, and his catcher was Ron Brand, and Ron Brand was like about, I don't know, 5'5", 5'6", and Dick Raditz was about 6'5", I think, and so Ron Brand went out to the mound for a conference, and it looked like a guy with his son or something. But a lot of those kind of jewels from the past when I was thinking about the things that I've done, and I remember that USBL game with Manute Bol, and Spud Webb went up for slam, and the crowd went nuts. It was pretty interesting.
And John Hot Rod Williams was on that team too.
That's right. He was on that team, and he was involved in some kind of point shaving scandal. It was like a column writer's dream going to cover that game. I mean, you just couldn't go wrong.
So, Howie, can you take us back to your beat writer days?
Yeah, I started covering the Red Sox in the mid '80s, and it was pretty interesting. I covered the '86 World Series, and a lot of the difference with doing minor league stories and college and going to the major league was kind of a shocking thing, because they were a lot less cordial. And I remember that '86 team when John McNamara was the manager, and Jim Rice. Those guys were a little bit on the nasty side, but some of the guys were pretty good. But it was interesting, and I one of my dream jobs was to cover baseball on a full-time basis, and I didn't travel with the team except for the '86 World Series. But I think one of the years, it might have been '86, I covered like 37 of the home games, so it's like just about half of the home games. I actually worked with I don't know if you've heard of him. Nick Cafardo worked for the Boston Globe, and he was recently enshrined in the writers section of the Baseball Hall of Fame. He got a special the Spink Award, I think it was.
Yeah, he just passed away recently.
That's right. It was several years ago. Yeah, he worked
That long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and he worked for the Patriot Ledger, and I worked for the Patriot Ledger, which is a suburban Boston paper, and got to work with him, which was really great. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I love baseball. Covered the World Series in '85, and there were no laptops around then, so I had to drive to the Associated Press office and file the story, I remember doing that, and the following year I got these Radio Shack things and covered that, and just really enjoyed it. It was a long day. It was like, you get there for 7 o'clock and you get there about 4, and talk to the manager and maybe a couple of players and get some stuff for your notebook, note your notes, and then do the games. And the games in Fenway Park always lasted a long time because they had good hitting teams and a lot of foul balls because of the cozy confines. But it was, it was really, I enjoyed doing it. I remember in the '86 World Series, it was like, I think I got the 7th game. We had like an afternoon paper. There was no internet then, so there was a morning paper and afternoon paper. The 7th game, I think I got done writing about 5:45 in the morning or something like that, because they didn't even start putting the paper together till about 10 a.m. or something like that. But Dan, we didn't get your favorite ballpark, by the way. We're still waiting for that.
Oh, it was Camden Yards.
Camden Yard? Okay.
Yeah, it was Camden Yards. I went before the hotel went up.
Oh, cool.
No, it's see, I don't eat food when I go to the contrary to popular belief, I don't eat food when I go to the stadiums because that's too much money. But so I just concentrate on how I feel and how the game feels with the surrounding areas. So my rating system is a hell of a lot lower than everybody else's, especially the people on this podcast. So it was just, I come from Philadelphia and being at the Vet and Citizens Bank Park, and that stadium, just where it is, how you get there, the surroundings minus the hotel, it was just the best experience as a baseball park I have ever had.
I never buy food either because I figure, well, I might miss like a triple play or something. So
well, yeah, I don't move. When I go to a sporting event, I sit down. I watch the intermissions, the breaks in the game. I'm lucky enough my bladder isn't a problem right now and never has been, so I don't have to get up. I watch the game no matter what kind of game it is. Honorable mention for a minor league park was River Shark Stadium in Camden, New Jersey. Campbell's Field. Well, I'm calling it River Shark Stadium.
Yeah.
Because you had the Ben Franklin Bridge in the background. The city was getting fixed up around it. The breeze coming off the Delaware, as long as you didn't breathe in too deep. That was a beautiful park, and it was gone way too soon. That still bothers me, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes, that'd be a good podcast because you're right. That was a beautiful view, and it's
Indeed.
a shame that we build ballparks of that caliber, not some grandstand with a couple seats in it. We build
like
ballparks
Pfister?
for million. Like Pfister. We build beautiful ballparks that are meant to do great things, and then within 15 years, we're
They're
done.
good. That was
New Jersey
way
has two of them, three if you
was-
count Atlantic City.
I was just saying, you got Atlantic City just sitting there, and that's
Yeah.
a great park. And it's just, anyway,
yeah.
I digest.
Anyway, I want to just quickly mention some of my baseball music.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're definitely gonna
Absolutely.
get into that, Howie.
Hell yeah,
So,
this is the part I'm waiting for.
So I've got a couple of baseball CDs out. This is Baseball's Greatest Hits Volume 1, and that originally actually came out as a vinyl disc, and I remastered it into that's got the Tug McGraw song on it. And then my most recent one, which is not all that recent actually, is the Baseball's Greatest Hits Volume 2, and that has Mendoza line on it, and also a song about the Red Sox finally winning the World Series after 86 years. And I actually did a parody of an REM classic, and I
Nice.
come up with a song called "It's the End of the Curse and We Know It." And so I do I do baseball shows actually, which is consists of my baseball songs, and I do trivia, and then I tell some of the stories, because once you get me going on the stories, I can talk forever. But and I do a section about the dump the DH and that kind of stuff. And so during the pandemic, I actually did them via Zoom. I figured out a way how to hook up my sound system to the computer and to the laptop and get some sound that sounded pretty good. And I do I'd rather do them in person. I've been doing a lot of the baseball shows in person, and that's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing that. It's my favorite trivia question that I ask, I'll see if you guys can get it, is who holds the record for what pitcher holds the record for the most strikeouts in one game?
Of baseball, major
Batting
league or minor league?
Major League Baseball game. Only two people have actually gotten it out of all like 50 shows I've done or something.
Well, Roger Clemens and
Well, it was Kerry Woods and
right?
Clemens, correct? 20?
It's not correct, but it's not a bad guess either. So it's Kerry Wood, Roger Clemens, Max Scherzer, and Randy Johnson all struck out 20 guys in a 9-inning game. But the record for a game of any length is 21 by Tom Chaney, for the Washington Senators in 1962.
Wow.
Struck out 21 batters in a 16-inning complete game.
Wow, that's something you think I would have heard about.
Before the advent of pitch count, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So it's funny because like a lot of players who hold records, like Dale Long holds the record for most consecutive games with a home run. Wasn't a great hitter. Tom Cheney only won 19 games in his entire major league career. So that's.
Wow.
But anyway, but I really enjoy doing them. And when I was doing them on Zoom, I would occasionally get people from different parts of the country to kind of they found it somehow. And but I do in person in the greater Boston area. Greater Boston area, southern New Hampshire, southern Maine, and love doing it. And it's interesting because I sell the baseball CDs, but I also sell the MP3s like on Spotify and Amazon and those places. And I get a lot of people from like all over the world buying them because I guess they're baseball fans, probably Americans, but baseball fans all over the place. So, Australia, Europe, South America, Mexico, and because when I get paid from iTunes or something like that, it tells you where the purchase is coming from. So kind of cool. But,
and anybody listening can find all your songs and all your information on your website.
Right, which is howienewman.com. HOWIENEWMAN. You can listen to a lot of the baseball songs. I have a whole band behind me for a lot of them, and backup vocals and all this other stuff. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of fun doing that. And Baseball's Greatest Hits Volume 3 is kind of in the works because I did a song about a guy named Mike Hessman, who was the minor league home run king. He had 433 minor league home run.
He's the real life Crash Davis.
Yeah. And so I did a song about that. That's not on either of the baseball CDs. And I did one about Tony Cloninger, who hit 2 grand slams in one game, only pitcher ever do that. And then I'm working on one now about knuckleballs. And so I'm pretty close to having enough to do Baseball's Greatest Hits Volume 3. So, but yeah, feel free to go to my website and listen to any of that stuff. And you can hear samples of it. And I have a section about the baseball music. And I also have a section about the Dump the DH, which we talked about before. And then actually I did a follow-up to Dump the DH, which is try to get rid of artificial turf, which
Nice.
well, everybody was going to be behind that one.
Yeah.
And it just didn't, I don't know. I mean, I got it written up in USA Today, and I think I got it in one of the big New York papers, but it didn't I didn't do like 30 radio shows or get on TV or anything. But that was kind of fun. Learned a lot about prescription athletic turf and all this other stuff. I talked to turf experts and things like that. But actually, it may have had a latent effect on things, because how many artificial turf fields are there now? There's only 4.
Well, we've got the technology now. We can pull the whole field right out of the stadium, let the grass grow, and then put it back for the game.
Or you can have a retractable dome where you let
Right.
Because a lot of people don't know this, but the Astrodome, which had the first artificial turf field, originally had grass.
but it wouldn't grow because
But it all died.
Well, they had a problem with the roof that nobody could. Once the ball got hit in the air, the fielders couldn't see it. So they tinted the roof, and then the grass died. And by the end of the year, they were like spray painting dirt and brown grass and everything else. And they had to come up with some kind of a solution over the winter. So they came up with the artificial turf. So actually, I have a song about artificial turf on my first baseball CD.
Now here's a question. What was your reaction when you saw artificial turf for the first time? Were you like, what the heck is this? Or
it was really ugly, and then it's sort of the old artificial turf. It's better now, but it took like really weird bounces, and the ball would really shoot through the infield. And then they wouldn't even put the infield dirt in. They'd have these sliding squares. So at least like now where they have artificial turf, they have an infield that looks like an infield. So, but it's really, it's it's really ugly. Although it's funny. I'm a big softball fanatic. I'm still playing, and but I remember
Good to hear.
a long time ago we used to. We had one team that used artificial turf for its field. It was never got a bad bounce or anything, and if it's wet, you had great traction and everything else.
Yeah, because I mean, I grew up in an era where you had grass fields and artificial turf. I mean, AstroTurf. So it was accepted, But looking
Right.
back at old footage, I'm like, oh, that stuff was horrible.
Yeah,
Especially
no,
for football players.
Yeah, it's horrible. They had Shea Stadium when the Mets were playing. They actually rotated the stands around and used it, but the field got so beat up from the football and everything else. It got to be an issue. But then people kind of realized that having baseball teams share stadiums with football teams was not really a great idea because the configuration of a field was not conducive to each other. So that kind of went away from it. But it's really kind of a shock to see it. I'm trying to think of the first one that I ever saw. It might have been Philadelphia at the vet. Saw that, but yeah, it's not. Well, there's only 4 teams that. Can you name the 4 teams that still have it or that have it?
Toronto's one, I know.
Those got it.
If it's Major League Baseball, I think it's only 2.
No, there's 4.
Toronto and Tampa.
Right.
Miami.
No, the new stadium in Texas has it,
Okay.
and Chase Field in Arizona, in Phoenix,
Yeah.
started as a natural turf field, but it's so hot there, they used so much water to maintain the field that they felt it was not environmentally responsible so they put in artificial turf. So those are the 4. And Chase Field has a retractable dome, as does Toronto. So
Toronto has no drainage though.
yeah,
That's their problem, is that it's concrete under there and there's nowhere for water to go.
yeah. And they still have the Argonauts play there, right? The CFL Canadian
No,
football.
they're beat. No, they're gone.
They don't play there anymore?
No,
BMO
they were
Field.
kicked out.
Oh, they really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
8,000 fans.
Wow, cool. Well, learn something every day.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
So Howie, I guess before we wrap up, we were talking before the show started that you do a lot of stadium traveling of your own.
Yes.
To a lot of minor league parks across the country. How about you fill us in on some of your favorite places to go?
Okay.
Cities, parks, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll go to a baseball game anywhere, anytime. So I think Pittsburgh, San Francisco. I like a lot of the minor league parks. The old minor league park in Spokane, Washington was pretty cool. And there was an old one. I like the old parks better. Somebody said, I forget who it was, that a lot of the newer parks become a little more corporate and they have suites, luxury suites and all this other stuff. But the one in Rochester, New York was pretty cool. The old
Silver Stadium.
And a lot of the new parks don't really have the charm of the old wooden stadiums. I went to one in Bridgewater, though. The last game they ever played, the Bridgewater Bluefish, I drove down there and back in the same day.
Oh, Bridgeport, yeah.
Yeah. Bridgeport. And it has this hideous power plant next to it with toxic smoke
I
spewing.
may be the only one who liked that backdrop. It was because it was different.
It was different. It was, yeah.
I would pass
I like
it.
it too.
I passed it a lot going to New York and stuff. I said I got to go to a game there once, and I finally went there. But
It is now a concert venue.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. But the one in Lowell, I really liked. Lowell, Massachusetts, really nice minor league ballpark. And I'm trying to think. I have a list of all the ones over here. And let's see. I think one of the few people who saw the basketball Nets play in 4 different venues.
Teaneck. You saw him in Teaneck?
I didn't see him in Teaneck. I saw him at Island Garden, Nassau Coliseum, the Meadowlands, and
Iraq.
the Barclays Center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. The one in Oklahoma City is kind of cool. That it's because it's right in the city there, and they have like a
That's a nice one.
nice downtown.
Well, it's been a while, but yeah, it's beauty.
Yeah. And there's one in I went to Daytona that was really nice.
Oh, Jackie Robinson.
Jackie
It's
Robinson.
on an
Field.
island. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But of the major league ones, you know, I would go to Wrigley Field and Fenway and Pittsburgh and San Francisco. I did like Minneapolis a lot.
Nice.
And actually went to the Trop. That's not one of my favorite fields, but I had such low expectations of Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. I had such low expectations that I actually enjoyed it a lot, you know. And plus, I could sit behind home plate, you know, for $16 or something.
Yeah, that's I think I liked about it too. Was cheap tickets, and it was a thunderstorm outside. So thank goodness that dome was there, or that game would have been rained out
Yeah,
hours ago.
yeah.
Can't do anything at Fenway Park for $16.
You could buy a beer.
Minute Maid Park I think, is pretty cool too. I kind of like Minute Maid Park. So those are my favorite ones. But haven't been to a baseball game since the pandemic started. I don't know. So I'm looking forward to going next year. And opening day at Fenway Park is March 31st, so I'm hoping to be there. I'm hoping things are a little more under control pandemic-wise at that point. But thank you very much for having me. It was interesting talking to all you guys. And, you're
You too.
maniacs in your own way.
Yeah. Like Dave says, we're just not right.
Yeah, well, you know, you find something you enjoy and you do it, you know, all the power to you. It's great.
So you like music and sports?
Yeah,
usually,
I do.
Like usually, some people are just all about the sports and all about the music. So
No, I
you have
love
those two nice hobbies.
music. I love going to concerts. I love playing. You know, I do a lot of performing. Not just the baseball shows, but I have a duo that I play in. I have a backed by fiddle player and a mandolin player, and I would do a lot of outdoor shows. And really, I always do a couple of baseball songs though. But I enjoy it, and I love going to concerts, outdoor concerts, indoor concerts. Just really enjoy music. So I've sort of combined my two vocations, I guess.
And you like to write.
I like write songs. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
done too much. I haven't done sports writing quite a long time, but I like writing songs, and baseball songs seem to come fairly naturally. So I kind of gravitate toward that.
You're actually doing a show not too far from me in a couple of weeks, Howie.
Where is that?
You're in Foxborough.
Yes, that would be actually if you're in the area. I'm going to be playing with my duo there, and we're doing an hour and a half show, and a lot of original material, and a lot of audience participation, a lot of stories, and I'm going to do a couple of baseball songs, and we do a combination of my original songs. Most of them are humorous. Some of them are serious, and then we do some classic rock as well. So we don't do any folk music, even though I'm an acoustic player. And, if you're in the area, it's definitely it's free, and Foxborough, Massachusetts, south of Boston. Anybody in the area, please come by.
Yeah. And so before we let you go, Howie, why don't you let our listeners know where they can check out your music and your website, all that good stuff, buy the CDs.
Yeah. It's HowieNewman.com. It's HowieNewman.com. Or if you just Google Boston funny songwriter or something like that, or Boston baseball songs, you'll get to my website. But yeah, website, you can buy this, you can buy the albums, you can go on iTunes or Amazon or any of those digital places if you just wanted to buy the MP3 tracks. I know that CDs are kind of passe at this point, but you can check it out. Yeah, so the website's got all the stuff. I put a lot of work into putting that in there, and it's got my information about me in the Hall of Fame and the baseball music and all this other stuff, all my other things. So, but I appreciate your having me. It's a fun group.
Oh, we're glad to have you, Howie. Thanks so much for coming on. And Greg, a shout out to you, because without your mediating this, we wouldn't have come in contact with Howie. So
Greg is the son of one of my cousins, so he recommended it, and it's been everything I had hoped it would be.
Well, thanks so much, Howie, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So that's all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank everyone out there for joining us once again. Dan, where can our listeners follow you online?
Follow me complaining about the line at the Wells Fargo Center at danlaw83.
Mark, how about you? Where can you be found on the internet?
You could find me at Ballpark Hunter on Instagram, Twitter, and my own YouTube page. I have a review of the Milwaukee Bucks Arena Fiserv Forum. That's coming up pretty soon, so that's a good one. You'll like it.
And that was really your dad's first NBA game at the age of, what is he, 90?
He was actually 91 at the time. Now he's 92. Yeah, he doesn't go to a lot of NBA games.
What 91-year-old does go to a lot of NBA games?
He got a free shirt, so he had a good time. He liked it. He liked the arena. He doesn't like baseball. He doesn't like being outside in the cold, so a basketball game indoors is just perfect for him.
Beautiful. Yeah, so check that out on Mark's YouTube page, Ballpark Hunter. Dave, where can our listeners follow you online?
Twitter and Instagram at ProFan9.
And you can follow my Stadium Journeys on Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. And remember, you can find all of our stadium reviews, news items, and other feature stories on the website, stadiumjourney.com. Connect with us on all of our social media channels at Stadium Journey. Like, comment, and share everywhere. You can find audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on whatever podcast app you use, or you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on all those different places. I won't go into detail on all of them now. Video simulcast can be found on Stadium Journey's YouTube page, and our classic back catalog can still be found at vocnation.com. And join us for our live streams every other Tuesday night at 7 Eastern at twitch.tv/danlaw83. Oh, no, wait a minute. Well, you can go that way, or you can go danlaw.tv.
Yeah, that's fine. Danlaw.tv is fine.
They're the same thing. We'll be back. Speaking of our live stream, our next live stream will be in 2 weeks, December 21st. It will be our end of the year episode. That is always a fun one. So thanks everyone for your support. Thanks again to Howie Newman for joining us. For Dan, Mark, and Dave, this is Paul. Wishing you all safe stadium journeys and close games. Hope to see you on the road.
Or if not a start, maybe a pinch runner just to get in there. Or maybe a late inning defensive replacement when we're about 12 runs up in the 9th inning. Or I'd even settle for warming up the pitcher between innings.